Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August 20th, 2024 edition of the SIG Node meeting. We have a packed agenda, so let's get started. Vinay, would you like to kick us off?
Hey, yeah, so I had a CAP proposal based on one of the issues that I saw, which was about more fine-grained auth Z for Kubernetes API. In in particular, some of the things, like a lot of the things, are wrapped into the node/proxy, uh, and so we were wondering uh, if any prior thought has been given to like breaking some stuff out. For example, like the health Z and slash pods are read only permissions that seem more benign than like some of the other permissions in proxy, which could be like running arbitrary commands in containers. And so uh, it would be nice if we can like break them out into their own uh, like um, sub resource, so that callers who are interested in checking just the health Z or looking at just the pods can do so without having other permissions, such as being able to exec into like containers, or attach into containers as well. Uh, I believe a lot of third-party monitoring agents already use pods and LC. So like these endpoints are being used, but and if RBAC is enabled, then these monitoring agents have to give nodes proxy sub-resource permissions, which from a RBAC perspective and least privilege perspective isn't great.
Yeah, I like the proposal in general. Like we need to split resources and one like granularity right now is non-existent basically. My only comment here is that we didn't document this endpoints and making explicit permissions with the name of these endpoints, making them official. So my bigger worry is if we're making them official, we need to support them. And right now we have few issues outstanding for all these endpoints because neither behavior of those endpoints nor like interfaces or APIs are standardized. So we kind of in this limbo of endpoints are being used by everybody, but we never committed to support them and keep them um, consistent. So my suggestion was to try to come up with some other naming, like some more generic naming, like monitoring or whatever, that will be descriptive enough to tell what this granular permission has, but at the same time doesn't indicate a specific endpoint is expected to be official or something like that. Does anybody
Uh,
else have a comment?
yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
That was one of the issue why we didn't. And when we started doing a gRPC endpoint cap, that was one of the issue we brought up that those endpoints that we currently have, like pods, is not official. So we don't want people to rely on them too hard. I mean, I know reality is that they already rely on them.
I feel like another option could be we could group them by read only and read write. I mean, are there any of the endpoints that you can't actually edit anything, something that an admin would want to prevent users from accessing if they have access to that? Like I understand the reason for not having like giving an user access to an exec. You can mess with other pods, but if you're only reading,
even reading sometimes might be like the attack the Kubernetes, and depend on implementation. Of course, this is why the said whether some of those monitoring things then we have to control, and we have to throttle inside implementation because read-only trigger some problem in the past. So that's why we have to read limit. Yeah, I think I saw the Tim O'Clair raise the hand. And Tim, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add on that. I think the pods endpoint specifically gives pretty broad permission to read a lot of information, especially since we don't really have an effective way of limiting it to the local node. If it was easier to say like this permission is only effective on like the node you're running on, maybe it would be less bad. But currently, if you grant that permission, you have read access to all pods across the cluster, which I don't know. It's not the most sensitive information, but there's certainly situations where it's more of a threat. Yeah, I like Sergey's suggestion, although I can't think of a better name for pods. I also think that health Z is pretty standardized. And so I think if we wanted to keep the health Z permission naming, that seems reasonable.
I just want to mention something, and healthy it is, I agree with you. But some other thing like the sync loop and running pods, this is always is temporary one when we at the earlier development time, and we always want to replace them with more properly. Like this is why, like the Sergey also mentioned that earlier. I think a couple months ago we have this discussing about the gRPC API request, all those kind of things. So we didn't. This is why we don't want to make this as public accessible, because this is kind of early time. But the problems, unfortunately, we cannot deprecate this one. It's just because some use cases already rely on those things. I just want to mention. Team, when you work on the node security, I remember we discussed some plan to deprecate some of those endpoints in the long time for the security reason. Is there any other thing we want to continue?
I mean, I think we've talked for a long time about deprecating these endpoints and building out a proper, like fully supported versioned API. I think at this point, we've been kind of kicking the can down the road for so long. I think that like this is a big hole, a big gap that this proposal addresses. And it's a pretty simple solution, and I think we should just get it out there. I don't think it means that we can't, I don't think it's going to make it any harder to deprecate these than it already was. There's a lot of people who are relying on them. Yeah. I think we should still explore the like local gRPC APIs. But I don't feel like this proposal is a big change to that direction.
I mean, when we did drop-in configuration support, we said that the way to understand what configuration currently is to use config Z endpoint. And the requirement for CAP was that we will document config Z endpoint explicitly in documentation. So there were no documentation. Part of CAP was to document this endpoint. Do you want to put a requirement to document those endpoints as part of this CAP? If we have a granular scope for a specific endpoint, we need to document this endpoint. Is it something we can? I mean, I know it's a big ask for CAP that seemingly just adds in the granular permissions, but at the same time, it's a right thing to do from my perspective.
Yeah, I
Will
think
you
that's
be
a
open
good
to
idea.
document this
I mean,
endpoints?
Sure. Yeah, I think we can. but I'll need someone from SIG Node to like help me with that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sounds good. We are also looking for someone to be the reviewer and approver from SIG Node. I already talked about this in SIG Auth and they were on board, but they said that this is more something that they would like SIG Node to also participate in. And so if somebody wants to volunteer to be the reviewer and approver for this, I'm happy to add them.
I'm happy to review. I think I have approver in the kubelet server directory as well.
Okay, and finally, there was some questions that SIG Auth folks were asking about like which, where should this KEP live? Should it be in SIG Node or SIG Auth? Does anybody have strong opinions? Right now, it's under SIG Auth. I put it there because like I thought this was like an authentication thing. But happy to move if people have strong opinions about this being under SIG Node.
I prefer this is under SIG Auth.
Okay.
Yeah, we added those for, of course, it's node needed at earlier time and for debug binary. But obviously, we want to, because this is the security concern initially from day one. So yeah, SIG Auth, we own those. Yeah, need to ask how we are going to do.
Okay, so so it's under SIG Auth right now, and I added SIG Node as a participating SIG, and I think that's the right outcome then.
Mm.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Vinay. Do we have anything else on that? Moving on to Kevin.
Yeah, I just have, well, I was bringing up an issue around like, so in Cryo, we were exploring the idea of using crun as our, for our OCI runtime, but all the upstream tests use run C. So I wanted to bring up whether or not we could have testing of different OCI runtimes and upstream. I mean, I brought it up, I added it to the agenda last week, and then I know a few people from SIG K8 Infra were definitely not on board with this one. I don't, like, I think on the cryo side, we may just go ahead and add this testing in the cryo CI, but I want to just bring up if anyone else is actually exploring this. Like what if they want like something other than run C or other OCI runtimes and making sure they're working in upstream. If not, we'll just go forward with the cryo side because it sounds like it's too much. It's adding too many tests, I think, to upstream.
Yeah, I unless there's the common more people using, I prefer not add because open source already too many, right? Yeah, so there's also have many other alternatives. It's hard for us to balance.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll continue with cryo CI. If we one area that I think we are discussing, I don't think we're quite there yet, but if we decide in the cryo community to kind of default with crun, is it okay to change our the cryo upstream jobs in Kubernetes to use crun?
I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
I think one of the so first is like how many tests we run, and second is if failed tests have been looked at timely. So like if you switch to crun, then I hope that somebody will be watching and fixing them.
Yeah, I guess the only concern I have is right now I'm bringing up adding the the node conformance jobs as a SIG release blocking. I wonder, does that mean that we probably should not change? I guess we could change the OCI runtime for those, but that might cause problems. So I don't know if that means we should kind of freeze those types of jobs for any major changes.
You can run 2 versions at for a while and then switch. We typically don't want release blocking to start flaking unexpectedly or start failing unexpectedly. It creates too much noise. So you can run 2 versions at a time for some time and then switch.
And then I guess that's the only case that we can say that's why we have a separate job for this, is because we want to eventually switch the defaults, but we don't want to block the release. And that can be our main thing for that. Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah, just open up a PR or an issue and infra, and we should be able to take care of it. Right?
Yeah, no, I did. Well, in that case, I brought up like a pre-submit for it, but I think there was some concerns about adding, like, basically allowing free reign for any OCI runtime to add to upstream. So that was kind of blocked. So I think we'll go forward.
Certainly, for cryo, C run's the default, so that's what you should be testing, right?
We're discussing that now. So right now, I think
it's not yet the default.
So we won't be pushing that out yet. I think we'll go ahead with a cryo, like upstream cryo, to kind of test this out more, and then maybe eventually we'll do the switch, but it won't be that soon.
So my understanding is the milestone, it is just add another test or suite with the C run, but it's not the default, and it's not, I mean, that's your decision back in the production, but that's not the release blocker at this moment, right? So then after you have the confidence, then switch, and then remove run C, right? One with the cryo.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think that summarizes it pretty well. I think right now we are going to go forward. We're still going to go forward with run C and upstream. In cryo CI, we're going to kind of build a matrix that we want. And then once we're confident in defaulting, we'll probably switch all but the release blocking job to maybe use C run, and then add like the C run special one can be separate so we don't block the release. But I think I'll bring that up later on. It's not something I'm going to do right now.
Sure. Thanks. That sounds good plan.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, to this question, we may want to explore some pre-submits route. So if you have, pre-submits doesn't take much resources because they don't run periodically. So we can have many pre-submits with different environments.
I have a PR in there if you want to suggest like why we could go that route either way. It was on held because of the OCI, but we could say, like, my hope was a pre-submit at least would be helpful for flaking out these tests.
The biggest problem with pre-submits, they wrote pretty quickly. So after a couple of releases, you already, like, most of them have environments that is not runnable.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, well, thanks everyone.
Okay, next is my topic. I think we will be, like, our group will be going through some organizational changes, mostly like new Google groups. We are switching to Kubernetes IO domain instead of Google Groups domain. Same for CI group. And we also switched to new GitHub projects because GitHub is deprecating older projects. So new format of a project, they look a little bit differently. So if you relied on any of them before, please change your bookmarks. I also think we will reschedule the meeting invites because right now meeting invite owned by a single person, and we want every lead to be able to change meeting invites if needed. So I will send, or maybe somebody else will discuss, send separate email about all the organizational changes, but please expect that you will need to join new Google groups, and there will be some dust of all the changes. So if you see some old, like after email sent, if you see some old reference or some old bookmark, please don't hesitate to send a pull request or change it in the Google Docs, whatever. Thank you for attention. I expect this change to be sent soon. Like, I was waiting for some PRs to be merged.
Cool. Thanks for that heads up. Yuan? No.
Yeah, so this is Lin. My name is Lin Liu. Yuan Liang and I recently joined this group, and this is our first time to participate on this meeting. So we're here to bring up an enhancement of an existing CAP, CAP 2000, which was proposed and I believe approved on year 2020, but only the Linux side of the implementation was done. And the Windows side has not been a priority until recently. We do have some Windows container customers. Their scenario would greatly benefit if this feature was implemented on the Windows side, meaning that kubelet, once receiving the service pre-shutdown notification from Windows operating system, it has a grace period to clean up all the running pods on the node before the node goes away. So here we are to present our current thinking and prototyping to this group. Since this is our first time joining here, I'm not entirely clear how we want to proceed. Do we have enough time to go into the details? Or we're usually doing the review asynchronously. Here's the link. Everyone who is interested and who has comments can go ahead and leave comments for us to address offline. So let us know how you want to proceed.
Okay. So since I review most of those, so have you talked to the SIG Windows?
Absolutely. So we went to SIG Windows last week. We went through this already with the SIG Windows, and they are on board with this approach, and they suggested us to move forward with SIG Node. So that's why we're here.
Okay, got it. Okay. So normally I think this is existing feature. This is basically just have the feature priority between Linux nodes and the Windows nodes, right? So
right.
So we normally, because for those kind of things, normally it's maybe like handled as the asynchronous way of review, right? So now we start talk about the new, the CAP. Please add this one to the milestone. The Peter and the Sergey correct me and add the milestone, and we can identify. Please also goes to SIG Windows. They need to identify. We also help to identify the reviewer and approver. So the both SIG have to approve this one. So yeah, so we can talk about those based on
Okay, that sounds great. I have a pretty good idea on the SIG Windows side who will be our reviewer, but I'm not sure in this group. Is there any recommendation or any names that you guys can suggest?
I think when we get to the planning phase, we'll assign folks. So I think when we go into 132 planning.
Yeah, and I want to speak about planning in the end of this meeting a little bit. For this specific case, do you want to be part of existing CAP 2000 or you want to start a new one? Because 2000
we would like to stick with the 2000 because I thought the 2000 is a pretty generic one. It did not specifically say it's Linux only, even though the implementation is Linux only. But if you look at the title, it is graceful node shutdown. So that should apply to both Linux and Windows. So it's our preference of not creating a separate CAP for this work, just considering this as an enhancement of the existing CAP to avoid some of the overhead. So unless you guys tell me that this is wrong and we should separate these two things.
But I want to point out, we don't have much of the Windows users feedback. So I like the changes on the Linux node. We, at least the group of the people here, through myself, we have the many years experience. So we know what's the impact.
Understood.
Part of the Windows graceful shutdown, if I remember correctly, back then, and it's just impossible and impossible, and so that's why they didn't. So my problem is I don't know what's the impact to the user.
I
I don't know what it is, those feature introduced. So that's why I keep mentioning that SIG Windows. And from SIG Node, mostly because you attach our common code, right? So you attach, and also the common integration interaction with our control plane, because we made a decision control plane, it is on Linux and only support the Windows nodes. I think that's the decision what I made back then. I said we see adoption on the Windows container, Windows node, and then we decided the rest, because that time there's a huge push on the entire of the Windows cluster. But the problem it is we do see also Windows node support, if we don't careful, maybe impact the control plane. So that's why I'm not sure there's the you can piggyback. This is nothing to do with this older cap, but I just feel some of those things quite different from the Linux. Why this?
It is different, but I don't think we make any changes in the control plane. Any component sitting in the control plane, I don't think we need to touch on those.
Okay.
So the change that we make is entirely within the Windows node, how the kubelet process that running on the Windows node receive Windows operating system's notification, how to handle that notification within the node. We have no intention of updating any of the existing kubelet control processes or services that running in the control plane.
Do they have this like the?
Liang, correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm just wanting to make sure that my teammates has a chance to chime in. Liang, if I'm saying anything that is not true, then please chime in. Go ahead. I see a lot of hands. Okay, go ahead, please.
One more last question. Okay, so remember back then, the reason they didn't implement is there's have the dependency on the Windows kernel. Maybe they find now you find a new way to do this one, or is there any of like Windows version requirement, Windows Server version dependency or some things?
I don't think so either. So the main thing that we need to listen to from the Windows operating system is this service_control pre-shutdown event, which I believe that has been there for a long time. So it's not a recent Windows recent version of the OS that just supported this. So that's our stand on this. And when you talked about the concern of a specific Windows version support, just for the education purpose on our side, how many older versions of operating system that the open source needs to support to say that this meet the requirement? Do we need to go back to 2019, 2016 version of the Windows OS, or it's just N-1 or N-2? Would be suffice?
I only can share Google side of this, but this open source, maybe some other people can share more. I personally think about N-1, N-2 will be good.
Okay.
Depend on user, right? So depend on user. So that's why I don't know. Yeah. Other people can chime in. Yeah.
Can I quickly add two things? One is we never had really clean Kubernetes support for anything below Windows Server 2019. But Don, I think to answer one of your questions, a while ago, back when this cap was originally introduced, Windows containers didn't always honor graceful shutdown themselves. Now that is supported. So that was kind of like a problem to tackle first, is we needed to make sure that if we sent the graceful shutdown signals to the containers, they would actually handle that properly. Now that's been supported, so now that it makes sense to look at this feature for Windows support.
Thanks, Mark. I'm so glad to see you here. And also,
thanks, Mark.
You fix. For a moment, I think about them. Remember something wrong. I remember we talk about this where we don't support in some. Yeah, thanks. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see Peter and Sergey's hands are up. I don't know who has their hands up first, but please.
I had a quick one, which is just that we have this a precedent in sort of how we handled a case like this can be taken from the Windows Kubelet Manager code, where we basically put it on top of the existing cap, and we didn't even really like require it to follow the normal KEP cycle, though we haven't really done any work on it in between the KEP cycles. But so I think you could follow that precedent to answer the question of do we need a new KEP or not.
Yeah, my think also about process. So right now we don't like graceful termination is one of those perma betas. We should have GA'd it long time ago, but now we have this the problem with endpoints cleanup. So right now when graceful termination, like we don't give enough heads up for endpoints to be cleaned up, so we have some bad behavior on termination from SIG network perspective. So we will be fixing that, but one of my worries is if we will tie Windows support to this KEP graduation, then we wouldn't be able to graduate this KEP fast if we want to graduate it. And then on the other hand, if we graduate it, we will be blocked by Windows because Windows may still be in like alpha stations and beta stage. So I don't know like how much you want to tighten those two together. It may be much easier just to start a new KEP. It will be very small. You probably will just say, I add Windows to existing APIs, no API change, just enable for Windows, and that will be it. I mean, in my dreams, like we don't have this perma beta, and we fix this endpoints problem, and 132 will have graceful termination G8 because like practically everybody using it already. Everybody hitting this problem with endpoints, and like I wanted to be G8 tomorrow, like at 132. And if you add Windows to the equation, it just makes things harder.
I see. So Sergey, just want to recap what you said. Fantastic suggestion, but I just want to clear my hearing is a KEP cannot be graduated or closed without everything being considered done for G8, right? So if this KEP has both Linux and Windows in it, both Linux and Windows has to be reaching to GA for this KEP to be graduated. Otherwise, it cannot be, right? So that's why you think that having us in a separate KEP will expedite our process without having a dependency on the Linux side, how Linux side move forward, or vice versa. Did I understand it correctly?
Yep.
Okay.
But Mark has something to add as well.
Yeah, so I think instead of a KEP, we can just add another feature gate, right? That's another option if you don't want to like split it up.
Okay, I don't know much about feature gate, but I'll follow up.
Yeah, I think I think you can figure it out, Jason.
Yeah, I can help with that too if we do. Okay.
All right. But sounds like the consensus is this probably is not a good idea to patch this to the existing KEP. It should have its own place.
Yeah, and
either
it also
it's
will
a
be
KEP
nice to
or a gate. Okay.
It also will be nice to look at the existing problems for KEPs that we have, and with endpoints specifically, and see if it applies to Windows as well, and maybe it applies differently to Windows.
You can is it possible to put a link here? Sorry.
Yeah, you can reference the current one, so can simplify a lot of your KEP. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to duplicate a lot of effort, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds great. Yeah, all right. I think the rest of the review can be done asynchronously, as we talked about earlier. Anything else from us?
Normally, again, it is just I just sorry I repeat the things. We are heavily depend on Mac and the SIG Windows review and give me earlier signal. So normally a lot of things on the SIG Node I'm handle on the Windows because kind of I'm the one to stop the Windows control plane, but commit on the Windows Node support. So yeah, just please make sure SIG Windows planning all those kind of things is aligned with this one, and also have as early as possible they can review, because at the last minute we are going to everybody will be overloaded, and the test. Another thing is like test as early as Yeah. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. All right, I think we're done here.
I pasted the link on endpoints problem for graceful termination if you want to follow.
Thank you, Sergey.
Thank you. Next up, we have triage decision for minimum CPU requests. Iris?
Yes, thanks. So yeah, there is a PR there, which I was asked to triage it. I think it should be accepted. I think I just wanted to share it with you in the discussion. With someone, what your opinion is.
So you would like to, is there anything that needs discussion or?
I mean, I don't know the process. I didn't just wanted to say triage accepted. I just
totally.
I think it is
yeah, you
worthwhile
can,
saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go ahead and
for
add
future
that.
reference. Right. Yeah, you've been in the SIG Node CI, so you definitely have been, working on triaging with us. So you just do a triage accepted if you think that it's a bug worthy of accepting. But I can do that for you now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Itamar.
Yeah, hello everyone. So 2 quick points here. One of them is there's a long discussion that's going on for a lot of time about increasing debuggability for swap. And basically it was based off a comment by Don back in the day. And it revolved into a few PRs. And it's now a PR for adding a node condition, which gained a lot of pushback. So to make a long story short, my thoughts about this is that we already agreed that we're going to have an API cap as a follow-up. So what I think is that we can get rid of this requirement for GA and simply discuss it in the follow-up cap. Because first of all, we have monitoring support, which is pretty good. And also Kevin implemented NFT support for swap. So I think that's enough for the current cap, which is about basic swap enablement, and that we can defer this discussion to a follow-up cap. Yeah, and Don, maybe you're the one to share your thoughts about this.
I'm so sorry. I didn't follow up the rest of the new discussion because I remember I provided my rationale, right? So, and also follow up with the Jordan and the team. Offline sounds like everybody's on the same page. So I don't know. There's the new debate again. I'm so sorry about that. I should follow more close. Can I take a look? And the goal is just unblock the progress. But can I take a look offline? Because I didn't realize there's still being blocked by this. Yeah. Is that possible?
Yeah, sure thing.
You today. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, and I think it just was a minor comment that we all took too seriously, so it's taken on until now. But yeah, no worries. We can take this offline.
Okay, let me take a look because I do have some concern about just like what the original reason, because people in the SIG Node we discussed is for the supportability, debuggability. Even today, our production actually suffer from this one. We have customer enable the swap until our support cases for couple months, people finally, our support family units, they are enable of the swap on the node. But like what you say, there's the new inputs, right? So for this feature evolve, so maybe that's not a problem in the long run. So let me take a look and get back to you today. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, sure, no worries. Thank you. Yeah, and just another quick point is, so we talked back in the previous version 130 about this cap, 24,000, and I said that I don't want to rush it in, and that I do want to target it for 131. Again, there was a pretty good consensus for it back in the day. So yeah, just wanted to emphasize that this PR is important for planning the GI requirements. And if somebody can take a look and share their thoughts, it would be great. And maybe we can also label it as a milestone for 131 or yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, 1.32 is where we are now. But yeah, I think we'll do planning for caps very shortly, and we can include this one.
Thank you. Yeah, as you know, I was out of fork for some time, so sorry for the confusion.
No, it's okay.
Cool. I added it to the milestone so we can talk about it at cap planning, which will be coming soon, as Kevin mentioned.
Thank you.
Cool. Anything else there?
No, thanks a lot.
Speaking of cap planning, Sergey, you want to talk about this board?
Yeah, we discussed that we want to use some boards, and I suggest we start using this way. I mean, there is no specific reason it should look this way or not other way. I just trying to repeat the same process we did with Google Doc. So what I did, I put all the caps in the first column, and then there is a column, 2 columns after that, proposed for consideration, not for release. If you know that cap is not going to be in 132, let's put it into like a red one, not for release. And if you think it's something that we want to consider for release, let's put it in the blue one. And I specifically split like proposed for consideration and considered for release, because I want next meeting, as we typically do, go through all the proposed caps and mark them with who will be reviewer, who will be approver, and put it into considered for release stage. And then after that, we will be reviewing PRs with cap updates. If you think that process may be a little bit different, please give feedback. And if you want to help with shepherding caps, also let me know.
I think this is great, Sergey. I think this will make it easier for us to track once we get into the cycle.
Yeah, so once again, if you own any cap, please either drag it into second or third column. That will help everybody.
Cool.
Cool. Sounds great. Thanks for setting that up. Last up, ensure volumes are unmounted during Gristle node shutdown. I'm not sure who's here.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Eddie. I frequently work with the SIG storage community. So this PR, we're trying to basically address an issue. So today, volume teardown is not properly accounted for during graceful node termination. So what happens is that critical node pods such as CSI drivers can be killed before they're able to unmount volumes. The inhibitor lock is released, the instance is terminated. What happens is if volumes are not unmounted, then they are subject to 6-minute delays until the attach-detach controller issues a force detach. Users are not able to attach that volume to new running nodes. So that's basically a quick summary of what we're trying to address here. I opened this PR back in May. By now it's been heavily manually tested. I believe I've received approval, or looks good to me, from members of SIG Storage and a few members of SIG Node as well. And I think the last action item here is we're waiting for Sergey's approval. So just kind of wanted to bring it up here. And yeah, thank you guys for the review and help on this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember this one. This one just missed the deadline But yeah, we can definitely make a pass and give approval if everything looks okay.
Yeah, yet another graceful termination related PR. Lin, if you hear, just pay attention.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah, I don't know if this test is testing Windows at all, but maybe changing all those tests to test Windows as well would be useful.
Manu, have you reviewed this one?
I made a quick pass while I was from a phone on vacation, so I'll take a look at it now.
Yeah, if you please take one more look, and also if I have time, I also take one of the things more I'm concerned about it is, can we ensure about the error pass, error handling, if not successfully amount, because we do have the cases in the past, right? So then what's the should we do? So at least I think someone of us, I'm not sure Derek is here or not today, and we should take one more look and to properly approve this one.
Yeah, absolutely. No rush at all. I mean, feel free to leave any questions on the PR. I'm more than happy to address that. This is done on a best effort basis, so it's not going to, please leave any questions. I'll be happy to address it.
Yeah, I think we should also add this to Clayton's document, which currently has endpoints and all the other issues we have dug up.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Alrighty, it sounds like we reached consensus there. We are at the end of the agenda. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to talk about? Alrighty, it sounds like we can all get back 8 minutes. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.